Good evening, participants. I extend a hearty welcome to each and every participant to the second day of our 7-day national webinar on gender equality, a prerequisite for sustainable development, organized by the Center for Women Empowerment and Women Studies of Manonmaniam Sundaranar University in collaboration with Regional Association for Women's Studies. The resource person for the second day of our webinar is Professor Sugandha Ramamurthy, and her topic of address is Sustainable Development Goals and Women Empowerment. A short description of her profile. Professor Sugandha Ramamurthy is an associate professor of economics, Leduc College. She is a member high-level committee for post-COVID-19 policies. Member Curriculum Development Committee for Women's Studies, University Grants Commission, apex regulating and funding body for higher education in India, New Delhi. She is the Governor's nominee, Selection Committee for Teaching Faculty for Women's Studies, Kerala. Selection Committee member for Teaching Faculty, Kendra Vidyalaya, Madurai. As to the positions held by her in the past, she was the Director, Center for Women's Studies, Lady Dope, Madurai, Business Incubator Manager, Micro, Small and Medium Enterprises, Controller for Examination, Indian Maritime University, Chennai, Convener, Center for Women's Studies, Lady Dope College, Chairperson, Internal Compliance Committee Against Sexual Harassment Committee, Lady Dope College. As to the countries visited by her, she has visited many countries: Thailand, China, Sri Lanka, Dubai, Indonesia, Malaysia, UK, Switzerland, Germany, Australia, France, and Italy. She is serving as a member of Board of Studies for many universities and colleges for economics and women's studies, gender studies. She is a AC member in many NGOs. She is a University Grants Commission trained master trainer for gender sensitization and capacity building for women managers in higher education. She herself has organized many capacity building workshops for women managers in higher education. She has guided projects MA 14, MPhil 12, PhD 8, and she has published articles in peer-reviewed national and international journals, which accounts for more than 50, and she has edited a book. She was the only person to be invited from the South for the 4th OECD World Economic Forum organized by the Government of India at New Delhi. Was one of the course writers for MA in Gender Studies offered by IGNOU. She was the official researcher guide for study abroad program, presently guiding the Department of Anthropology at Denmark. She introduced NCC in her college and was first NCC officer in her college. Introduced business incubator sanctioned by Ministry of Micro, Small and Medium Enterprises, the first of its kind to be sanctioned to a non-engineering institution in India. The credit is hers. She was the master trainer for capacity building for women managers. She has organized 7 national level conferences at Lady Duke College. She was a resource person for more than 40 conferences, workshops at national and international level. My eminent professor is today with us. I thank you, ma'am, for accepting our invitation and having given your consent to be the resource person for the second day of our 7 days national workshop. I, on my own behalf and also on behalf of the Center for Women Empowerment and Women's Studies of Manonmaniam Sundaranar University, extend a hearty welcome to you, ma'am. The section is yours, ma'am, now.
Thank you, Revati. Is my sound clear?
Yes, ma'am, you are audible. You are audible. Your sound is very clear, ma'am. Sound is very clear now.
Okay, so I'd like to thank Manonmaniam Sundaranar University and of course Ross for this opportunity to share with you some of my thoughts on sustainable development goals. Hello.
Ma'am, now there is echo, ma'am. Again, there is echo.
Oh,
I think if you reduce the volume, it will be better. I think so, ma'am.
okay. I'm putting on the. Let me see if it is clear now. Is it okay now?
Yes, ma'am. It's perfect now. There is no echo now, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes,
So today we are going to talk about something called sustainable development. Yeah, O is missing. Right. So yesterday you should have had talk on sustainable development and what we require for that. So today I will talk to you a little bit about sustainable development goals. Now, let me just go to the background on how the sustainable development goals emerged. Before this sustainable development goals, which came in 2015, we had millennium development goals. Okay, sustainable development goal look like this. There are 17 goals,
I'm sorry to intervene,
and
ma'am. Ma'am, I'm
yeah.
sorry to intervene. Your PPT has to be shared, ma'am. Your
Oh,
PPT
it's
has to
not
be
yet
shared.
shared.
Yes, ma'am.
Just a minute. Actually, I'm having a lot of disturbance.
There is echo, ma'am.
There is a lot. When I'm saying, na,
Yes.
it's getting repeated.
I don't know why, ma'am.
Is it shape?
One second, please, ma'am. Please share your window. I'll add it to the screen.
It's not yet.
No, ma'am. No, ma'am.
Okay, I'm coming.
Your audio is very good, but there is echo. After you finish off a sentence, there is an echo.
Yeah, exactly. I'm coming. Is it visible now?
I'll add it, ma'am. I'll add it to the screen. Yes, ma'am. It is visible.
Sure.
It's visible.
So this is how the sustainable development goals are visible. We have 17 goals. Okay. The first being no poverty, zero hunger, good health and well-being, quality education, and what we are going to talk today, gender equality. Of course, there are many others, but I started off saying we'll talk about Millennium Development Goals. So before we go on to that, we'll just quickly try to understand what is empowerment. So here my slide says empowerment is a multi-dimensional social process that helps people gain control over their lives, right? So that they're able to work to the best of their capacity. and become important for themselves and the society around. Yeah. So this being the whole thing. When it comes to women's empowerment, it means, can we gain control over our own lives? Can we have power to take decision, be it at home, be it outside in the society? So what women's empowerment would mean, it ends up in gender equality. That means rights, responsibilities, opportunities for the individual, for women, whether they're born male or female. Okay. But unfortunately, you see, the gender difference or gender gaps, which you were talking about yesterday, has been like institutionalized through various mechanisms like the legislative, educational, political, economic, social, cultural, religious. So all these institutions have created a role expectation of both men and women. So therefore, in this context, women have been much more hard hit than men. And therefore, we need to take concretized steps to enable, capacitate, and empower women. Whenever we talk of women empowerment, it's often looked upon as as a negative connotation. But then empowerment is not negative. It is actually creating an equality and equity in the society. So therefore, empowerment should not be seen as a zero-sum game where women gain and men lose. It's like both gain and the society gains. So keeping this idea of empowerment to enable women, so women's active participation in decision making facilitates the allocation of public resources in investments in human development, like in education, health, nutrition, employment, and social protection. So when we educate women, we really realize that women are more effective in managing the home, in nutrition, in education, in managing finance, and contributing in the labor market effectively, efficiently, and thereby creating a better life for human beings, both at home and outside. Will this not be helping the economy to grow, the country to go, as well as the world to grow and go forward? So therefore, women's empowerment is not belittling anybody, but enabling more. Now, since we're going to talk about sustainable development, let's see what's sustainable. It's just considering the present as well as the future. So when we talk about the present with the intention of the future, for example, we see now the sex ratio is so skewed. We want more boys, more men, and less women. Women are looked on as burden, both social, financial, and otherwise in the society. Now, the skewed sex ratio has ended up in a situation where the girls are much less than the boys. This is not sustainable development. Over a period of a few decades, now we find girls are much less. There are so many villages in India where there are almost no young girls, no brides. Imagine a village where only men are there. This is outrageous. So this is having a myopic view of how a society should be. So either having child marriage or doing away abortions, sex selective abortions, all this has created a skewed society. So you need sustainability. Any policy, process, custom, tradition should be sustainable to humankind. Sex selective abortions is not sustainable to humankind. So development means seeing to the needs of the present generation as well as the future generations. Now, there are three things or three core elements of sustainable development, be it for women, men, or climate, whatever. The three of them are economic growth, social inclusion, and environmental protection. So considering these three, any development process of a community, a society, a country, and the globe at large. Now, so we understand sustainable development, empowerment. Now, merging the two, we will have women empowerment and sustainable development goals. As I told you earlier, we had Millennium Development Goals, which had its own targets and indicators, but it was over by 2015. Unfortunately, most countries who are signatories to MDG did not achieve it. So keeping in mind UNDP, United Nations Development Program, have designed a set of sustainable development goals which are much more specific, more focused, and more achievable and achievement oriented. So quickly we'll see what's the difference between MDG and SDG. So this is it. So MDG was composed of 8 goals and 21 targets. And SDGs have 17 major goals, 169 targets, and 230 indicators. Here I mentioned 3 things. One is goal, 2 is target, and the third one is indicator. What's the difference between the two? Okay. Goals would mean broad umbrella things that we need to achieve. Say, for example, the first SDG says no poverty. Now, this is an umbrella term when we say no poverty. Under that, we will have targets. Targets means something that are measurable, that will tell us how much we need to. So target would be, we must bring down, for example, for poverty. No poverty means we need to bring down people below poverty line to 5%. Now that is a target. So you are able to measure. And indicators. Indicators would mean what are the things? Is it housing? Is it nutrition? Is it employment, income? So what is it that will tell you I'm well off? How do you say I'm well off? I need some indicators to say I'm living well. I get 3 meals which are nutritious. So like that, we need indicators to know, yes, we have done it. So those indicators are very clearly mentioned in SDG goals. So that's it. Now MDG focused mainly on poverty and issues associated with poverty, which relates to education, health, and other things. Okay. But it has left out large issues like peace, security, human rights, women's rights, democracy, good governance, etc. etc. So SDG has tried to include all these, and therefore we have 17 goals. Now, SDGs are universal targets, okay, and they consider all these issues as public goods. Public goods means which all the citizens of a nation have a right to receive it. It's also about the environment. It's also about the health, economic growth. But remember one thing, MDG were by and large focused on developing and underdeveloped countries, whereas SDG is for everybody. So that's one big difference. So gender equality in SDG is seen as not a stand-alone goal. Goal 5 is all about gender equality, but in SDG, all the 17 goals are captured. It's cross-cutting goal 5. So somewhere there is a interconnectedness to all the 17 goals. Okay, so that is why we are saying SDGs are broader overall with respect to gender, and it is so very transformative. So transformative means here it's going to bring an overall change in terms of climate and in terms of gender, whether it is nutrition, it is health, it is safety, education. So SDG incorporates gender in almost all the goals. For example, SDG, which is the fourth goal, the 4.5th goal says ensure women's access to adequate sanitation. So gender is also in goal 4. Now in goal 6, it says equal pay for equal work, both for men and women. That's again gender issue. Now, for example, SDG 11, it says about safe and affordable transport for women. Now, again, that is also related to gender. So if we look at the whole thing, you will find that it is so inclusive. Okay, it's so holistic, and it's aligned with gender equality for all the 17 goals. Governance, so much of importance is given to governance. So this is present and future concern, and that is why we call it transformative change. Okay? Okay. This I have already said. The 3 dimensions also I have mentioned: economic growth, social inclusion, environmental protection. There are 6 elements of SDG. Now, the 6 elements would include dignity, that is to end poverty and fight inequality, which would automatically mean gender issues. Prosperity, to grow a strong, inclusive and transformation economy, which means you have both the developed as well as the underdeveloped country. Justice, to promote safe and peaceful society. Then partnership. So there's a global solidarity. So every country who are signatories of this SDG will be working together. So we are also trying to protect the entire ecosystem and the people. The focus is on both men, women, children, and so on and so forth. Okay. So we'll come to SDG 5. Now, when you're talking about SDG 5, as I mentioned here, SDG 5 goes like this: achieve gender equality and empower all women and girls. Now, as I already told you, SDGs are very specific target oriented, and every indicator is measured. And if you see the document, each indicator, how you're going to measure, what are the indicators, and how you're going to actually go and collect data, and then come out with your policy framework for that particular thing. Now here we see target 5.1, and all forms of discrimination against women and girls everywhere. For this, they have created an indicator. Now, what are the indicators? Are there legal frameworks? What do you mean by legal framework? For example, I will tell you, in the world over, we have around 49 countries where women discrimination against women is made mandatory. For example, in a few countries, especially in Arab countries, it is the discretion of the husband or the father to permit women to participate in labor force. If the husband doesn't want, she should not go to work. In many Arab countries, women are not permitted to drive four-wheelers. It's constitution. It's legal. The husband can give a complaint. So, such kind of legal framework has to be redone. Another thing, like in India, Dowry Act, Anti-Dowry Act. But we really know, in 1962, we had this Dowry Act. It is now 2020. Still, we know dowry is an important aspect of any marriage, even in so-called love marriages. So, where is the legal framework? Yeah, I know my own colleague who was in the Center for Women's Studies, very active participant. When she got her daughter married, Illa Sugandha, I'm giving 100 sovereigns and I'm giving a car. I said, ma'am, what is this? Why are you doing this? After all, you should not do this. But then, she says, Sugandha, it's all fine to talk, but then, I want my daughter to live well. I want a good bride for her, groom for her. And these are some of the requirements. In Tirunelveli, it's very important. I said I didn't know what to. So, legal framework. Do we have a legal framework? Or for that matter, shall we say property rights? We know in Tamil Nadu that equal property rights for both the sons and daughters are in place. But how many of us get it? So there you need to, even a questionnaire is there, prepared by UNDP. So where we can measure whether legal frameworks are enforced, are we monitoring, and is there a non-discriminative basis? Child marriage. Even yesterday we got a newspaper news that child marriage is recurring so often, even with the support of police force. So all this has to be, taken into account, and therefore to frame policies which you can really enforce, implement, and see that child marriages are not in place. So this is about it. We have this target to eliminate all forms of violence, trafficking, sexual harassment, and exploitation. Okay, now we hear of so many rapes recently in Uttar Pradesh, so many places. It's become you open the newspaper and every day you hear a few such incidents, both in public and private spheres. So for this, what are the indicators? So they're talking about age, what kind of violence, and who's doing it. So is it a relative? Is it the husband? Is it a third person? So by age, by um, the kind of violence, and the and what kind of a violence, who's the partner or the relationship. So this is the indicator, sorry, target. And the indicator, you will find how many have had this issue in the last 12 months. Then that you take the numbers, you find out the percentages, has it reduced, is it increased, all this analysis can be done, and based on this you can come to important policy measures. So this makes it so specific. That's it. And target 3, the 5.3, eliminate all harmful practices. Child marriage, forced marriage, female genital mutilation. Okay, as I said, child marriage has become even more common. In fact, child marriages have actually increased, especially after so many rape cases and the safety for women issues. So here indicator, we have 2 indicators. Proportion of women 20 to 24 who are married or union before 15 years. And we have one more indicator, who have undergone female genital mutilation. So cutting or by age, both. So these 2 indicators will tell us what's happening to women as far as such harmful practices. Target 5.4 talks about work. What's the work she's doing at home? What's the domestic work as well as outside? So again, in this, we have to create a time utilization study. So how much time she's spending on care, the work, other work she does for children, for adults, for older ones. So you do it based on sex, age, and location. So this unpaid work has to be taken care of. So that's important. We have target 5.5, which is all about opportunities, equal opportunities, participation. For what? For leadership, decision making, both in political, economic, and public life. As far as India is concerned, this governance is a very tricky stuff. You've had from Indira Gandhi, one of the most powerful women in the world, Sonia Gandhi. In UP we had, Tamil Nadu we've had, West Bengal, Didi we have. So, it's very tricky. We've had from prime ministers to chief ministers throughout the country. Yet, the larger group of women are not participating, are finding it pretty challenging to take decision on whom to vote. So, it's very tricky. Outsiders probably think women in India are so empowered. They have so many women leaders. But is it the truth? You see, we don't even have 5 to 6% of women in the parliament. As far as local bodies are concerned, as of now, we have around 48% of women because of the reservation policy. Now, that policy has made a change, bringing women into leadership. Again, it's very tricky. Last week in Tamil Nadu, there was a big case because the woman head was a woman from Dalit background, and she was asked to every time sit on the floor, and the vice chairman used to sit and conduct the meetings, and she was asked to just sit in a corner. Only where she had to sign, she was asked to sign. So this is the real position. So all this has to change. Now we need to know where it is happening. They've brought two indicators. One in governance, either in parliament or in assembly or in local bodies. The second one is all about women in managerial positions. How many women are CEOs or in IAS officers or IFS officers, IPS, or in higher positions? You find a lot of women in clerical positions, be it in banks, government offices, private offices. Probably there are a handful, like Indra Nui and so many, Kiran and other things. But most of them are crowded in smaller position. In education, we know how many vice chancellors are there. You will have a lot of professors, teachers, but how many principals, vice chancellors? In fact, a few years back in Karnataka, Karnataka State Women's University, okay, and in that Women's University, we had the vice chancellor who was a man. Imagine it's a women's university, but the man is leading the university. So this is the position. So if we get all this data, this will give us good grounding for demanding changes in legal framework as well as the actual policies that are being implemented. Target 5.6 talks about health. So important. You see, the particularly reproductive health. There are so many issues about what's happening with the women's reproductive. In fact, women's health is just the same as reproductive health. Unfortunately, as far as women's health are concerned, people are not interested about the breast cancer or uterus cancer or the menopause, but they are interested in reproductive health. In fact, most health pharmaceuticals are not interested to invest on research and development for women's issues like cancers in ovaries and all. Menopause, which is mandatory for every woman, it is not there. That's why during menopause, women face a lot of physical changes. And suddenly your BP may shoot up, your diabetes may shoot up. But after your menopause, it kind of regularizes. It gets regulated. But most doctors say you are a BP patient, now you'll have to eat tablets to your entire life, or you're a diabetic. But actually, after the menopause, things come back to normal. But I don't know if there's any research worthwhile mentioning about what changes happen in the body during menopause. So even reproductive health, the contraceptives, and how it will help and enable, what would be the side effects when you eat tablets. It's easily advertised, but how many of us know what is the side effect? So that's very important, especially during COVID times, this pandemic. I think all of us now know how much of testing, 4 stages of testing for any medicine. But for women's contraceptives, I can vouch for it that there is hardly any test. In fact, even for the menstruation, most companies are interested to say that your sanitary pads can be used for one day, the whole day, and it's so absorptive. But do we know reality that if we use a pad for more than 4 hours, you are open to vaginal cancer? But companies don't want to say that. They want to sell. And they don't want to invest on finding out making sanitary pads which are health effective. Only they use chemicals which can absorb more and more, which is bad for the health. So that way, yes, sexual relation, contraception, reproductive health. And of course, we need healthcare information, education on that. We may be as educated as well. But then, with regard to our own health, what it is, how we need to do much more. You know why? Because in countries like ours, many more of course, we live in a culture of silence as far as the health issue is concerned. In fact, there is absolutely no uh, appropriate information or research on the white discharge that happens to us, or the kind of pain that we experience uh, off and on during after periods or before periods, and the white discharge that is associated, or with the menopause and white discharge. All these issues are not discussed. So this target should work much more. We'll come to India, of course. We have in this 5A undertake reforms to give women equal rights to resources. So important. Financial resources, inheritance, natural resources. Okay. So I hear of so many women who are working, educated, and employed, but their debit card or credit card is under the control of their husband. This is the status quo. So we need to know how many women are able to have control over their resources, have able to take decision, be it agriculture, be it your own goal, right? So I remember one of my friends telling her sister was getting married, and her younger sister was saying, you must put more gold for me than what you put for my sister. And the sister was also pretty close, and she wanted to give some gold because the parents were old and retired. But here the husband's family were quite pertinent about not doing it. Why should you give? She was saying, this is my parents who give. But no. So this is the kind of control you have over the resource which your parents have given. So this is the way we live, the customary practice. So what is the legal framework? Legal framework would also include customary framework, that girls should not be given property. It's for the boys. So land ownership or control over any other resources. How do we bring it into our national law? So that's an important area where we need to work. Now, technology. Because technology is so enabling for the empowerment of women. It makes them more independent. So here, this SDG goals talk about mobile phones, usage of mobile phones. Because mobile phones have become very informative, knowledgeable, and you don't have to depend on the male members for payment of that, or withdrawing money, sending money, receiving money, even the smallest financial transaction. So that's it. 5C. How are we going to strengthen our policy for gender equality? Okay, so we're going to talk about most important thing here is budgetary allocation. Unless you have budget allocation, it's not going to work out. Merely having laws, policies in paper, in black and white, would not work out unless there is adequate financial. So there's a big demand for creating or putting in place gender budgets, gender allocation, disaggregated allocation of finance based on disaggregated data, right? So this is the most important aspect of any governance to be successful and to bring equality and equity in the nation. Gender budgets many countries have adopted, but in India we had it in 2005, 6 and 6, 7, I think, 4, 5 and 5, 6. But later it's kind of diluted, and you're not able to find out the real factors. A lot of changes have taken place in policy, the way it's framed. One of my students is doing her PhD on analysis of gender budgets. So gender audit is not there. Civil society's monitoring of the gender budgets, allocations, as well as monitoring is not in place. That has to be strengthened to bring gender equality and women empowerment. But this can happen only when, women can become the agent or agency of change, the transformation that we are talking about. So that has to work. So we find that only 11% in Lok Sabha seats. Why? In Lok Sabha seats, if only 11% can be there, I did a small analysis of different national parties and state parties. In ADMK, there's only about 9% of women as primary members. If they're not even member of a party, how do you think women can enter into governance? DMK was a little better, around 11% or so. Congress was around 10.5% as a national party. So all parties by and large are about, I'm only talking about primary membership, not asking them to stand for, elections. But being a member, it is that bad. So unless there are changes in governance, and that governance change to bring about more women in important places of decision making, it is difficult for actual change to come. But this SDG targets, when you bring out in open with strong database, these changes will be really possible. So this is what SDG goals are hoping. This SDG goals starting from 2015 to 2030. In 30, we will really know what's actually happened. How much have we reached the target, or how much is the shortfall? But we are waiting. Okay. Now that's what is important, is that the SDG targets are so linked with SDG target 5, equality of women, nutrition, so important. I was last year I think, I was visiting a school and I was talking to the teachers. One student just fainted and fell down. So I said, oh my God, the students all crowded up and all that. So I was talking to the teacher and said, the teacher was very angry. I was surprised. Why is she angry instead of concerned? So she was, these girls all the time do this, stupid, irritating and all that. So I was asking her, why are you so annoyed? Then she was saying, these girls, till 8th standard, they are all good. They will go to that midday meal scheme, take their plates, have their food, and are they okay. After they come to their ninth, for some reason, till eighth it's mandatory to, or people eat their lunch provided by the government. But from ninth standard, some change, the girls become more conscious of their social status, economic status. So most of the girls, they want to show that they won't eat food from free food given by government. So they are, above that level, and they bring food from home. So the other handful of them are quite embarrassed to eat that food because they are belittled and teased by their classmates. And children can be quite rude and uh, outspoken. So these girls who are actually poor, the mothers are working as construction worker, so they get up early and they have to go. So night they cook some food, and that old food is there available in the morning for lunch. So they don't bring old food and show to the classmates that they will eat only old food. So they don't eat in the morning and afternoon on a regular basis, and they start fainting. So what the teacher was seeing made sense. So here there's a budgetary allocation, food is provided, but the social indicators are poor. They don't want to eat. So I think the purpose of this scheme is somewhere diluted. So we need to see more in terms of the gender dimensions of poverty, health, education, employment, and security. In fact, I was visiting one tribal area up in the mountain. So those people, as soon as we came, I took my few students. They are not open to the society. They live in a aloof manner. So when we went, they all ran and hid. So we took some food and clothes and gifts and all. So slowly the ice was broken. Their language is also not Tamil, some kind of mixed language. So we became friends by the time it was afternoon, and also we said, come eat lunch. We took some lunch and all. So they slowly opened up, and then we were started talking about many issues. So one of them was, how do you manage your menstruation? To my surprise and shock, they said nothing. We do nothing. What do you mean you do nothing? No, if you feel it's flowing, I just go behind a tree. We don't have the practice of using anything. I said, oh my God, a society like that. And then I didn't know whether we should teach them that you can. So we went on to the topic. They said, some people come and give us clothes and all that. So this girl, if she's wearing a sari, she will keep wearing it, or a boy is wearing a shirt. They will keep wearing it until it tears off, and they'll throw it off. Only then I started looking all around the mountain. You will see clothes hanging on the trees, on the stones, everywhere. What it means is they wear that shirt or no pant, I think, some dhoti, they'll keep wearing it until it has to be discarded. There's no washing, changing. There's a question of using cloth or sanitary pad. That doesn't happen. So this is the kind of situation many women. So considering all this, the sustainable development goals are expected to bring a whole lot of change, because a lot of things are going to come out into the open with strong appropriate data. So we need to adopt sound policies and enforceable legislation, not just say we have something in black and white. Why girls are not going to? schools, or now why there is a decline in enrollment ratio. After the Nirbhaya case, the government said we are going to give 1 crore per annum. It was in paper. There's hardly any money actually allotted. So it has to be the civil society and organization like SDG, which will work towards creating a more equitable society where both men and women are given equal opportunities, access to all resources, and create a happy, peaceful, and secured environment. Often we are misled. I was seeing near my area, these women, when you don't get water, they'll all take their plastic pots, stand there, block the traffic, and they're very strong about it. So then when they're not allowing the traffic to move, then you have the RI coming, then you have the collector coming, they convince we'll send you water and all that. What powerful, strong women who are able to come and stand in the road and demand water. You talk to them personally, have a focus group discussion, you'll be surprised. They have absolutely no control over their body. She can never say to her husband, no. If he wants to satisfy his physical need, it is a yes. He says we need to have children, it has to be a yes. She has absolutely no control over her own physical self. Where is the talk about going out and taking leadership when you can't take control of your own body? That's why we need to talk much more about how to empower women, how to give them more opportunities. What kind of opportunities will enable them? That's why Amartya Sen has talked about capabilities approach. And he says functioning is different from capability. So only if you can enhance their capability, they can actually start functioning. So governments have to start focusing on the capabilities of both men and women. We're not leaving out men because they can't be left out. Nobody can be left out. The society has to grow, nobody can be left out. So keeping that in mind and ensuring that sustainable development goals will bring out a series of legislative, economic, environmental sustainability. Thank you very much. It's question time. Revati?
Yes, ma'am. And
Yes,
there
you have
is,
done.
Yeah.
yes, ma'am.
Sorry,
My dear participants,
Revati, you could
uh,
see hear me.
that is it. Yes, ma'am. 1 second, ma'am. I'll make an announcement now. My dear
Yeah.
participant, this Sunday National Webinar on Gender Equality, Prerequisite for Sustainable Development, is organized by the Center for Women Empowerment and Women Studies of Manonmaniam Sundaranar University in collaboration with Regional Association for Women Studies. Now, the Secretary of Regional Association for Women Studies, Professor Mani Meghalai, is with us. Now, I hand over the section to you, Ma. Mani Meghalai, madam.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Revati. And in fact, that was a very good discourse by Dr. Sugantha, who is also the treasurer of Regional Association for Women Studies, in addition to her position as HOD of Economics, Lady Doak College. And she could throw light on the Sustainable Development Goals, particularly on and the whole lot of issues concerning the reproductive health of women and the kind of issues that they face on handling menstruation and the issues of contraception, etc. I had to join in between lot of disturbance in the network, and so that got disconnected and could not fully able to listen to her. But still, I could understand through her conclusive remarks that the agency of women is to be recognized, and whatever there regarding the SDGs should be reflected there in the policy, and more than policy, just policy, it has to be enforceable. You have a series of legislations after this Nirbhaya incident, and also the Nirbhaya fund has been allocated, but what is happening to that fund? We have been asked to submit proposals, but nothing had come for the past, and now for the past 1 year, sorry, 1 month, the extension from Women's Study Center is not coming. So if Nirbhaya fund is lying unutilized, why these women's study centers, which are really doing a lot of gender sensitization and other activities across the country, they are not being supported? So this is all the questions we raise, and so it is already the question of a welfare approach, treating women as beneficiary, etc., or the gone are the days. Now it is it is entrusting power to them. For that, you have to really recognize their agency. So with that words, she is done justice for the topic. And I only wanted to convey in the beginning when she started, it was she was mentioning about SDGs, and I was thinking that she may be dealing again, since yesterday I dealt in length there the all the 17 goals. So I only was asking not to no go into in detail, but only concentrate on this. So I think she actually did that. So now it is open for discussion. And Dr. Revati, I am not aware of the participants here. So where are they from? How many of them are there? So is that?
Ma'am, nearly 85 participants have reported today, and their names are alone.
It is not possible for us to see them, because we will also know where are they.
Ma'am, I have sent you the participants link to your mail ID, ma'am. If you click
Oh,
the
there
link
we have
of
to
today,
click.
yes,
Okay,
ma'am.
okay.
If you click the link of that means we will be able to see
Okay.
who are the participants and what is the
Okay.
number of the participants who are participating in daily program. And if you want to do the welcome address or propose a vote of thanks, you'll have to use the link of the resource person. To get into the
So now we are only here. The participants will be out. That they
yes,
will be
ma'am,
only
yes, ma'am.
able to listen to us.
Yes,
Okay.
they will be able to listen to us, and they can give their comment in the chat box.
Oh.
Okay.
And if you want to know the comments given by the participants, you will have to click the participants link.
Oh, okay.
You
These
have to click the
instructions we didn't know
yes,
that.
ma'am.
I thought it is open here, because in any other Google or Zoom, you will see the participants also
Yeah.
and their
Yes,
chat
ma'am.
boxes continuously. It
Yeah.
is not every time you have to go to another link and then check. So I was afraid why it is
No,
not
ma'am.
happening here.
Ma'am, it is a
Yeah.
recorded version. At any time, you can replay it and see that, ma'am. These
Okay.
things you
Okay.
can replay
So
it.
now it is not. Will they be asking questions? These participants. Is there any
there's
questions?
one. Yes, ma'am. There is only one question from Anil Kumar Sharma. How can
Okay.
an awakening program for our youngsters, particularly girls, from grassroots be effective in all aspects?
Yeah, Dr. Suganta, please.
Yeah. So, particularly grassroots girls. Yes, there are a
From
lot.
the excuse me, ma'am.
Oh, there's
From the
another.
grassroots level, we
Yeah.
have to make the awareness program effective.
Yes. There are a lot of organizations, NGOs, women studies centers who are working with the grassroots people and at the grassroots levels to create a lot of awareness, sensitization. It's in process. So, but there's a lot more to be done. Not that we have achieved, but work is in progress. Only thing is, lot of us are not getting the fund, be it NGOs, be it women studies centers. So, yes, women's organizations at different places, at different levels, are doing commendable work. And they are also successful. In fact, I would say women from the grassroots levels are much more empowered. I think it's these women in semi-urban and urban areas are kind of more molded towards a controlled form of social setup. But the rural women are pretty much empowered in many ways, both economic, social, even cultural. Yeah. So maybe the urban women would probably also require a lot of empowerment, awareness, sensitization programs. Mr. Anil, I don't know if you have got your answer.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for clarifying his doubt. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for your appointment to be a resource person today. And thank you for your informative address. And thank you for your concern for the women all over Tamil Nadu, not only all over Tamil Nadu, all over the country. Your concern was very nice, exhibited in your presentation. Thank you for your concern for the women. And thank you for your appointment. Thank you for being with us for nearly 1 hour. Thank you, ma'am. Professor Manimegale is also with us. Ma'am, do you want
Yeah.
to tell anything? Yes,
Yeah,
ma'am.
yeah. Just I want to thank on behalf of RAS also. Of course, Dr. Shuganta herself is part of RAS. And so tomorrow or day after, she will also join to welcome the
Yes,
resource
ma'am.
person and participants, and
Yes, ma'am.
other RAS office bearers also. Then only it will be also
Okay, ma'am.
recognizing them. And
Okay, ma'am.
the only aspect is that we have to collectively work. It is not that women study centers and women empowerment centers some programs. It is high time that we have to collectively represent to influence the policies of the state, to recognize women studies as an academic discipline on the one hand, and because why I am saying this is a direct reflection from what we have just read from the women studies WhatsApp group, where the part, I mean, staff and faculties are being sent out because the UGC hasn't paid. So it is equally the responsibility of the state to take over the position, the state government. And pathetic is that some of them are with 3-year-old kid, 4-year-old kid. The government or UGC or MHRD, they are claiming that it is already pandemic and it is difficult to fund these centers, not just women study centers. There are other centers in Manonmaniam also. You have the social exclusion inclusive policy study center,
Yes,
and other
yes, ma'am.
such as UGC centers. But unfortunately, these staff are all now almost on streets, I should say, with heavy heart. And we have to do something collectively. And we have also asked all the students to join in a group. There is a WhatsApp group going for women studies students and scholars. And I only wish that the experts can also and I just represent a letter to UGC secretary, having heard this news that this today they have issued the relieving order, not relieving order, just ask them to go leave. And even if you go there every day, they are asking why you are coming. So at least they should allow, no, whether they are getting salary or not, at least they have to have the ownership to go and be there on the center, I mean, regardless of whether they are getting salary or not. But the universities are, particularly some of the central universities. Recently, I mean, the news now just came from one of the male faculty. He said so pathetically that he has 3-year-old child, but he is on the road. He has been sent out. So the government saying that people are on the streets, you have to feed them and you have to divert the resources, and therefore this resource otherwise available for these schemes to be supported is not there. But it is equally bad that these women study center staff or any other such UGC scheme staff are also facing. So I think that should be the perspective in which you have to understand. On behalf of RAS also, I have sent a communication just now. So please come out with some strategy so that you can also be part of this collective to influence UGC or MHRD to release the grant, and also give extension letter, so that these staff whoever are at least serious centers, they have appointed all the positions sanctioned by UGC. But unfortunately, now the extension is not coming. So this is the news I'm sharing to the diverse audience. You may not be directly belonging to women's studies, but some of you are from outside. But it is in interdisciplinary, and you have to also be with the women's studies for support. So once again, I thank Dr. Sugantha, and so Sugantha also is here, part of our RAS, and we have to do something for that. And I request Revati also to be,
Yes,
because your Women's Study Center is also UGC Center originally, and I know your history. Now it has become a different thing. And so please, you have also not received any fund for the past 2 plan period, I believe, for Manonmaniam. So all these are to be taken into consideration and then work out.
Yes, ma'am.
So
Sure, ma'am.
thank you, Dr. Revati and Dr. Sugantha, for enriching the input to 100 and odds. And of course, she said it's recorded and it will be available anytime. So that is a blessing that anytime they will open and read also. Thank you once again. We'll take leave today. Tomorrow we will meet. And
Thank you.
please share the link to Dr. Sugantha also tomorrow. Every day
Yes,
we
ma'am.
can join.
Correct.
I'll
Yes,
also
ma'am.
send the list of office bearers and their ID. So or if you share also, I'll share to them. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
And now
Okay,
Moli
ma'am.
and Ratna are part of, they are EC members only. Moli and
Yes,
Ratna,
ma'am.
they are going to be our resource persons. And so others we can share. Okay. Thank you.
Ma'am.
Thank you
thank
very
you,
much.
thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.